Well, hello, everybody. Today we have Birgitte back here today to share with us some amazing things about how to get unstuck, how to create the results that you love easily and quickly by releasing your unrecognized hidden grief and having the evergreen tools to grieve less and thrive more. Birgitte is a certified grief coach and certified success coach, and she is the creator of Dance Away Sadness, which I'm excited that she will come back and dance with us in the near future. And I'm excited to dive into that with her. She will help you to release the part of grief that words just cannot touch. And that is through the expression of dance, just to be able to let it all go. She was here about a week or so ago, and she shared her story of how she was able to manage and walk through her own personal story of grief, and how dance was a huge asset to helping her find the freedom and to step into a space where she can actually thrive and rise above all of the pain that she's been through. She is also an author of the book Seeking Peace, the proven 5 fingers method to thrive through change effortlessly. She is a woman with many, many talents, and I'm excited to dive into this topic with you today, Birgitte. So I'm just going to give you the floor. If there's anything that I missed in our introduction, please, you're more than welcome to brag on yourself just a little. I was thoroughly lifted by our conversation that you had when you came and shared your story, and just how you have this immense peace and joy about you after experiencing so much grief and loss. So welcome back to the Beautiful You community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stacy. It's such a great honor to be with you again. And I figured, since we have a conversations last week, we'll make it a little different each time, so you guys don't get bored of me. And so today we'll have a quick little presentation, and then we'll have a discussion, and then next time we'll be dancing. So so just a little share. So I'm gonna just share my screen. My quick little presentation is going to be called Impact. How you do anything is how you do everything when it comes to hidden grief. All right, so how you do anything is how you do everything when it's come to hidden grief. So do you know that Thomas Carlyle, the philosopher, says that, oh, this is interesting, doesn't want to move. Okay. Okay. There you go. I find a place to move it. So Thomas Carlyle says, nobody's perfect, right? And Thomas Carlyle says that the philosopher says, no pressure, no diamond. And so what that is, and not only that, not only no pressure, no diamond, if we think about it with diamond, even after all the pressure, after all the pressures, we are the diamond that come from the earth still has to be cut many a times for it to become a diamond. And so what does that mean? What that means is, when we are going through things in life, when we are facing adversities, that is to help us become an even brighter diamond of ourselves, you and I. And at the same time, though, if you ever feel like having pressure and all the heat from life and all the fire, it's no fun, right? I mean, have you ever feel like you are being pressured, perhaps from the endless demands from, clients and employer or employee, or your family, or maybe even your pets? If you meet, like, I have my very demanding cat. so sometimes we might even feel tired. You might even feel tired from feeling tired. And if, some of us feel that way, but tired from feeling tired. And some of us might even try things like positive psychology and try to be positive, to be strong. And at the same time, sometimes we still only hanging in there. Sometimes we have so much fire and so much pressure in our life that we are we're like, okay, we're making it one day at a time, we're surviving, but we're not thriving. So what can you do such that your challenges, all the pressure and all the cutting from life on your way to become a brighter diamond, what can you do such that you will thrive now on the way? Because we want to become diamond of us, but we want to be able to thrive now. Life's too precious and too short to not to thrive. We all deserve to thrive regardless of what's going on in your life. So the question is, how can you triumph in face of changes and adversities? Well, Steve, you introduced me very well. Thank you so much. A couple other things that I would share with our listener here. The one thing is, you might have noticed that I speak with an accent, and that's because my native language is Indonesian. And so much so, you might notice that when I say thrive, it might sound like die to you. But I mean thrive. So please lean in and listen closely. Also, you might have not detected this last time, Stacy, but I'm also very inappropriate. So I can be quite inappropriate. So you keep if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, keep your eyes on the screen. So you join me having fun being appropriately inappropriate. And then we will learn some example toward the end. And most importantly, I have gifts as well, because we all deserve to have diamonds along our journey. So I have gifts toward the end for our community as well toward the and that way you'll get your diamond now while you are becoming the greater diamond of yourself. I'm a certified grief specialist, as you mentioned, and a certified life success coach, global speaker, international best-selling author. I'm the founder of International Childhood Cancer Charity, and also a former veterinarian oncologist. And it is one of those things where I would say, life give me so many practice being in the heat and in the pressure and getting cut so many times that it's really prepared me to learn how to thrive even as I go through all the changes in life. If you haven't heard the interview from last time, I went when I grew up, I was being told I was a stiff, clumsy, stupid, ugly duckling who should never dare to dream to become a doctor or to dance or to speak. And then I have all these multitude of losses all happen in 2 years, and then just have you ever feel this where you feel kind of like, you just started to see the light at the end of the tunnel? Thing happens again in the form of my right hand, my dominant hand become paralyzed, and multiple other things as well. And it was quite a taste of things. But I would say I'm so grateful for that, because it's actually taught me and allow me to be able to help you now as you're going through life, that you'll be able to thrive a lot more ease and a lot more fun while on your way becoming a greater diamond, which most people are not the case. Most people are stuck in loss or crisis without most people stuck and not even realizing that they are stuck. And they're very ineffective in navigating changes and failing to transform the vicious cycle of grief. And so what I do is I help you ignite positive momentum let go of obstacle, establish simple system in your life, practical system that will allow you to create result beyond your own expectations. Most of us have no clue how to create positive momentum or let go of obstacle, never mind creating a simple, successful system that is great for you and great for your loved one as well, because we want everybody to thrive. And so a lot of time this perpetuates the perpetuate loss and lack of peace of mind. And we all deserve to have peace of mind, even more now with everything going on in the world. You know, our inner peace is so important because not quite, you know, it's not like the world is such that we cannot kind of rely on what out there to have our inner peace. Anything probably rattle our inner peace, right? So we want to be able to be strong inside. And also many people are stretched too thin, lacking direction, clarity, or the proper support structure to sustain momentum. And so to stay strong in this ever-changing world. And some of us do have health condition, relationship, internal challenges, or as we talk, know people who has losses before or lost a dear one. And of all this though, you deserve to be able to thrive, to stop settling for less, not only after you become a diamond, but while we're going through life, while we are in our journey, to make it a fun journey, a thriving journey, right? And so, and so that's something. And so to do this, to help our community to be able to thrive in our journey, I'm going to share 3 keys today for us to be able to have fun, kind of like, you know, dancing in the rain, so to say. We're talking about things. And the first key is to and when you do this, and then where you will feel confident and navigating changes, and actually as a bonus, not only you feel confident and better, you'll have more time, more energy, productivity, and feeling more accomplished as well. The first key is awareness. Now, in the personal development field, we know that everybody says the word of awareness, and a lot of time it makes us want to tune it out. So, you know, I'm like, awareness, yeah. But just hear me out for a little bit, because it might just be something slightly different. What you want to be aware in this particular case is to be aware of the myth or the misinformations that's impacting your life. And so what are some of the myth that is the misinformations? Well, it is about hidden grief. Now I got it. It might not feel like grief, but the definition of grief is the unsettling feelings caused by hope unmet or a change in your familiar routine. And so the first misunderstanding or myth about grief is actually that a lot of people think that grief is only when there is death, divorce, dire diagnosis, or job loss. And the truth is there are more than 40 causes of grief. And most of these are because we're not aware, they are unresolved, unrecognized, hidden grief. And so things such as retirement, moving houses, moving job, people a lot of time don't know that it's also awesome to be able to get our new home in a place that we would love. I have one friend her dream has been to live on the coast of Spain. It's like happy, yay, you know, well, man, we're able to get dream home and everything. And well, that's a big change. And yes, it's a lot of excitement, but it could also be a lot of grief, which is a lot of unsettling feeling, which is another name of grief. Things like having a baby. Right. The postpartum depressions. Yes, some of them are chemicals, but also a lot of times it's the unsettling feeling. People don't realize there is grief associated with that. Promotions, if you work anywhere, then it's a change in your clinic, in your workplace, you change supervisors, you change job. And the other thing that's sneaky that a lot of people don't know is actually things such as promotions is something that is very common cause of grief, particularly when it's also associated with things like you have to change schedule. And so there's a lot of hidden grief here. If you work at all.
I love how you have news on that list. Like, who would have ever thought, right? But I can see the relation to that.
Yeah, and then things like, if you work at all, the change in nonstop regulation, mask, no mask, cart, no cart. I mean, who can keep up with that kind of thing? Nothing's against that, but it's like one day you walk to work, you're like, something else changed. You're like, And then if you are a pet owner like myself, when you have to lose a dear one, or you're hearing about a diagnosis on your loved one or something else's, and many, many others. Can anybody find the dog in here? If you've been looking at this. And so Heidi is hiding. And so but there's a lot of things in our life that we don't even realize that it's actually causing a lot of grief. And when we are not aware with that, then it's affecting our life. And for some of us, I mean, if I can only imagine how full your schedule is. And so for some of us, they were like, okay, well, it's great. Now I understand I might be grieving, but you know what? For some of us, we're still hanging in there. Well, as long as I have my Tylenol, unfamiliar, or as long as I can still I still have my Tylenol, I'm okay. Maybe things not so great at work, but I'm still hanging in there. Well, so why do we want to bother with all this grief stuff? Well, the reasons is because with grief, it's actually some things that we call it is cumulative and cumulatively destructive. And so what am I saying in here? So grief is kind of like a big ugly snowball. And once something happened, if you don't resolve it, so let's say you're looking at this snowball here and something started in here and then something else happened and something else happened and something else happened. It keeps adding to that. It doesn't, if we try to push away grief, it doesn't go away, and it simply just turned into, we push it away. I hear a very beautiful saying the other day. And the person says, if you have things, you have tears. If you feel like crying and you're not doing that, that tears actually seeps into all other part of your body and actually all your life. And the same thing with grief, it has this cumulative effect where you at first you might be noticing things such as just unsettling, things like irritability and forgetfulness and just not being able to focus. And then over time, it was from emotions, it turned into something different. Like a lot of time people say physical symptoms. A lot of people come to me for physical symptoms and they say, oh, I got this chronic migraine that nobody can fix, or a back pain, a change in your eating habit. You're kind of like having this weight gain that unexplained. So there's a lot of people doing that. And then the other thing is actually being able to over time, it's these physical symptoms, if it continue, and some people get into, unfortunately, kind of like a little bit of a breakdown. Actually, it's unfortunate and fortunate in a strange way, because if you have a breakdown, then it's kind of like shine the light to everything. But if you are tough, like a diamond that you are, you keep on going, then actually what happens is over time, these physical things start to become permanent. And they become disease, and things such as an actual depression, an actual things such as disease, where there are a lot of other things that are going on. And so So that is the second myth of grief. The second myth of grief is actually that many people think that if they're not sad, then it's not grief. Because if we think about grief and think about people who are losing somebody, usually will see sadness. But actually, a lot of time, sadness, a lot of grief doesn't show up as sadness. A lot of time, it's simply unsettling feelings. If we look back at the definition of grief, it's the unsettling feelings caused by hope unmet or change in your routine. It doesn't say anything about sadness. And actually, the majority of people, even people who has lost a loved one, and if you know somebody who has lost a loved one, you might notice this. There's a lot of anger. Almost always it comes side by side with grief. And that's because when we have things that we feel we cannot control, then it kind of make us angry and become irritable. And so that's become turned into anger and then all these other things. So that's the myth number 2. If you're not sad, but if you're unsettling feeling, don't get mistaken that it might actually be still enough unsettling feeling to cause grief. And so and if you start noticing kind of peculiar symptoms, one of the I'm not sure why, I think there is a physiologic connection must be with this, but one of the common thing that I notice is people with irritable bowel syndrome.
IBS.
IBS, yeah. And then the other thing is actually skin problem. It's kind of like, wow, I guess the skin is like, things trying to surface probably from our skin or something, right? But like this peculiar skin problem, a lot like rashes and allergy, besides the kind of ache and pain, which make kind of more sense if you kind of tense or something, but IBS and things like that. So that is that. And so the grief is very cumulative. And then the other thing that's a lot of times sneaky and very hidden is with grief is actually it causes us to hit the glass ceiling, make us stuck. And so, whoops, it's going backward. It makes us stuck. And people don't realize this, but a lot of time you might know somebody who on a rotation of boyfriend or girlfriend, or on a roller coaster, eternal roller coaster of weight loss and diet, or feeling unmotivated, kind of like over time, you just like wake up in the morning, you're like, you know what, I got to do this. You might know that you're supposed to do things, particularly for us entrepreneur, we might like, okay, you know what, I need to do this and to do this and to do this. I just can't make myself do this. And then we hire perhaps people to help us, a team or a coach or something, and then the coach sitting there banging at you, and it's like, go ahead and do this, and then you're like, I just can't make myself do this, and you're hitting this glass ceiling, and you're going crazy, and the poor coach sometimes go crazy too. They're like, what the heck, and so. But that could be because of hidden grief, that unresolved grief that's holding you back like a 1,000,000-pound ball down and make you cannot, And what happened is we start to try to change job, sometimes change girlfriend, boyfriend, and do different things, buy a new car, a new house. And but if it's something that's happened from the past, then it might still be holding you down. Some of us become chronically fatigued. A lot of the chronic fatigue. I'm not saying that all medical problem from grief, but a lot of them are do that. And the chronic fatigues actually make sense. If you ever have a loss and you're feeling really down, you notice you're very tired. And so when you have hidden grief, what happens is it's kind of like there is an underlying unsettling in you that just kind of like simmering inside without you being aware consciously about it, but it drains your energy. I put the analogy of grief to cancer, really, with my background being in oncology. And if you ever hear or seen people who has cancer and they're like super skinny, and some of them they actually still eating. It's not because they're not eating, but it's like draining them. Both grief and cancer, it's like a parasite inside of you that you don't know that draining you. And that's really kind of scary if we really think about it and we don't know about it. So that is that. And so what happened is people actually in this society in particular, people's like, well, okay, so I'm not feeling quite right and I feel unfulfilled and I don't feel right. And then a lot of people get busy. People kind of like, okay, maybe I should work more, maybe I should do this and should do that, which take us actually to the third myth of grief. And the third myth or misunderstanding about grief is actually to get busy and to be busy, to do things and to keep running. Now, let me ask you this. If you have, say, your loved one have a broken leg, would you tell that person, you know what, take a ton of Tylenol and keep running? Chances you wouldn't, right? But when we have a broken heart, for some really strange reason, people say, let's go party. Let's do this. Let's go shopping. And yes, those are all going to temporarily numb you. And some people, a lot of gentlemen, but women as well, say, okay, I'm going to focus at work. I'm going to just sit at work longer. And because then you take your mind out of this, so you temporarily feel better. But if you don't resolve, it's just like if you have a broken leg and you take Tylenol and start running, afterward you feel worse and worse and worse. The on the book Seeking Peace, there's a story about a lady. She party. You can only party that much, and then at some point it's like, I don't feel good anymore during the party, and after that I just want to collapse. And so that's actually what happened with people with the we actually have a fancy term for this behavior where we get busy. And for some of us, that get busy actually turned into doing things like taking medication, or actually even, if anybody ever have stress eating, I sure do. And I'm so grateful. This is actually helpful so much for me. Every time I want to stress eating, I'm like, okay, so this is THRIVE, which is a short-term energy releasing behavior. This is short-term energy releasing behavior. Okay, this is not going to make me feel any better. If I eat a bag of potato chips here, it's going to make me feel worse afterward. Put it away. All right, kind of like, I treat myself like, okay, but you know this. All right, let's take a look at your feelings. What are your feelings instead of the potato chip bag? So things like that, it's very useful in our life, and so those are things that we want to do. Some of us actually go to meditation, and yes, it's because I have people ask me about meditation. Well, meditation's the same thing. Meditations will help you feel more zen or elated, depending on how you feel after meditation, but you can only meditate that many hours a day unless you become a monk. And then once the effects wears off, then you back to the same spot. So we don't want that to be happening. And so we want to actually address what's going on in our life, and then and not taking time about it, which is actually take us to the fourth myth of grief, or the fourth misunderstanding, and that is actually that time will heal all. Okay, we ever hear this where people say, just give it time, just give it time, just give it time. It's only been a year. Give it a couple years. It's like, how you want to stop in a couple years? And so time does not heal all. I mean, if you look at using the analogy of the broken leg, would you do something where, say, your loved one broke a leg and you kid, and you're like, okay, honey, go sit on the couch. Don't run around, but just go sit on the couch. We don't need to go to the doctor. Well, hopefully this will heal itself sometime, some way. Well, in the broken leg, if the leg actually do reunite, it will do so with so much calluses and inappropriate healing. Kind of, you sort of like experience this because with you were on told, right? But it's the same thing. It's with all the callus and the contracture and all the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that cause so much pain, and then you have even longer time to try to fix
Yeah,
that,
and
and
they'll have to re-break your leg to fix it.
yep, and they have to re-break the whole thing, and sometimes even cause in the physical form, it causes a permanent damage. And thankfully with grief, we usually doesn't cause permanent damage. Still though, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be, a lot of quite a few of my clients, actually, they come to me after mental hospitalization, and you don't want to give it time to the point like you're in mental hospital, and then and some of them, they've been on counseling for a while, and it doesn't work. You got a point on the mental hospital. Now it's like, okay, it's so much more time, energy, and cost, and just the trauma of having to be in mental hospital. And so we don't want to just give it time, because it's actually can make things get worse and worse. It's kind of like, back to the analogy of cancer, the same thing. You don't want to give cancer time.
No,
It's
if
going
you
to take you
ignore it, it's going to take over. Yeah.
Yep, it's going to take you out. And the same thing with grief. So we busted for the most common myth of grief. Now, there are 9 of them. I'm not gonna make anybody sit here and listen for 3 hours, because I will fall asleep if you don't. And so, but if you we're not gonna go through all of them. If you are so desire, you can go to my website, and it will be there. You can chat with me directly as well. So, but that is the 4 myth of grief, and the first key being awareness. Now, the second key for us to be able to thrive while we are being cut and pressed on our way to become even more brilliant diamond of us, is actually smart application. And so it's, what is smart applications? Well, it's kind of like, if you ever been prescribed a medicine for any condition, then, you know, if they say take it twice a day for a week, you kind of do not want to take it once every other day.
Right.
Or take a whole thing all at once. That's called damage, right?
Yes.
And so smart application is being able to do this in a way that you can apply it on a day-to-day basis. And when you do that, that's something that will allow you to be able to thrive better. And so and to recognize when there are possibly things that might be caused by grief. And so I'm just going to throw a couple examples here, because in case somebody relates to that. The first one is actually some a professional, a doctor, actually came to me, and a really good doctor. And by the time he came to me, he was in such a shape that he was being suspended by his hospital, even though he's like was one of the highest producing doctor. And also, he actually part of the reasons of that is he actually was being he was having physical problem. He has this condition where he just have random pain that wouldn't go away, and multiple other things as well. And being a doctor, he has the best care. Nothing would help, and he figured, because he's uncomfortable, he's irritable, and then he started snapping at clients and team members and patients. Good reasons for being suspended and being released from it.
Right.
Working, right?
Need your bedside manner.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we discovered that after just from speaking with him before he even started working with me, we discovered that he actually got promoted into department head.
Oh.
Not too long before all this thing happened. He's such a great guy. He got promoted to department head. He got to change schedule. So we shine the light of awareness into him and into his situation. And once he knows that, it's amazing. He has this awareness, and within a week and a half, all his physical symptoms goes away.
Wow.
And of course, he understands what's going on. He talked with his hospital, and he goes through this, and he actually done very well. And this was before the pandemic. Even when the pandemic happened, they actually allow him to hold his positions. Even with the pandemic, there is, you might have heard about the Great Resignation. He told me, well, during the pandemic, he worked with me again a little bit to help him navigate through things. But he told me, every department in the hospital has major resignation, burned out, and all these things. His department stays stable. And that's because he was able to recognize this. The other thing that, so that is something where, you might have catch that a lot of time we think it's anger. We have clients screaming and yelling at us, and we have no idea what the heck going on because we didn't do anything wrong. But it's actually could have been something in the vicinity of they might be actually feeling awful deep inside, and they just never say that. And
Anger is like a symptom, right? Like it's almost like a counterpart to something much deeper.
Yeah, a lot of time it's actually something that's, the anger is the surface emotion. The anger is the surface emotion. And a lot of time we look inside and we stay still enough, then we see something else is going on. And so that is that. The other one that this is Nancy. And Nancy came to me. Believe it or not, she came to me to help with her father, grief after her father passing. And she was really having a tough time with that, with her father. She's close to her father. And one of the things with Nancy was she felt that she felt that she's a disappointment also. When we spoke further, it's not just the father passing, but she felt that she was a disappointment because she know that her dad would have loved to be able to have grandkids. And her husband actually really want to have kids, but they have tried for about 10 years.
Wow.
Multiple different things, from counseling to holistic to traditional, you name it. You name it, and she just could not have her own child. And we worked together to release the grief from the father. And when we discovered that, and at some point when you work with me, you might come for one thing, you might actually discover something else, and you can choose to work on that. Yeah. And so she discovered that when she grew up, she has this trauma, so to say, that she wasn't even realizing, that of her mom and her aunt and everybody saying that, oh, it's such a challenging thing for motherhood. And some people were telling her that she's such a burden.
Oh.
That oh my God, sometimes we're not aware, right? And parenting is not an easy job. So some people told her that, oh my God, if you were not here, I would have done this and that. And so the trauma of living like that, and deep in her heart, she said, I will not want my kids to experience this. But it turned around into grief and fear from that. And so thankfully we managed to release that. And Nancy got pregnant less than 3 months after we finished.
Wow, that's together. So awesome.
And have super healthy baby, even though she was like in her by the time at that time she was in her early 40s. And still super healthy baby and everything. And so it was so beautiful, but it's kind of like one of the sneaky thing, who would think like, it's kind of like, thank goodness she came to me with her dad passing. And so that was so beautiful. And the other thing that, this is the last thing here. Anybody know anybody who have weight challenge? So this one was Mary, and Mary came to me. Yeah, just catch it. I just have to put it there. So,
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense though, like the whole like roller
Yeah.
coaster ride of weight loss,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And with Mary, what happened to her is she came to me because she's actually not like super heavy, but her weight is just not the best. And it started to interfere her because it make her feel that it is interfere with her relationship with other people. She's kind of shy a lot of things. And then she feel it's interfering with her relationship in being able to be with the love of her life as well. And so with that, so Mary was, and then also she starting to have challenge with her health because of the weight. A
Right.
little bit here and a little bit there. So she came to me. She's tried everything under the sun for her weight, and she came as kind of like, why not give it a try, because I've tried everything else. And what we discovered actually with Mary was she actually something she forgot. But when she was a kind of like in high school age or something, because she was looking at her pictures. She's like, I used to be slim, I used to be in good weight, and she was. Turned out when she was like in high school, it didn't even happen to her. It happened to somebody else. She was out and she saw this very voluptuous, wonderful, svelte woman walking down, and there were a bunch of guys, screaming and yelling and whistling and all these things at this poor woman. And for some reason, poor Mary in her adolescence, say, connected it, even though it didn't happen to her. She saw this poor woman crying and running and what have you. She said, oh, it gotta be dangerous if you are slim and trim and things like that. And that happened. Went home, told mom, nobody make anything out of it except apparently her subconscious hold it down and caused it into something different, and that unsettling feeling just being pushed away because mom's like, oh, don't worry about that, and then it'll never happen to you. So she kind of makes sure that, I think her mom actually is like, oh, don't be silly, things like that. So she's like, okay, then I got to protect myself. And then and when she did counseling and things, they were like, well, nothing ever happened in your life. And so it's one of those things. But that's a lot of different things with the hidden grief can make us stuck with a lot of different things. And then actually we takes us to the third key of being able to thrive and triumph even when we are having on our journey to become a brilliant diamond, is to actually have specialized support structure. Yes, you can. How many of us have what we call self-help? We got all this book. I have like a whole wall of it in front of me. And so, we have self-help, but and also some of us been to like counseling and all these things one after another. But if we are not having somebody it's almost like, if you have, say, a gallbladder problem and it causing you discomfort, but then you go to a general practitioner or you go to a dermatologist and all these other things, well, they might be able to give you something to suit you at the moment, but it's going to keep coming back and on and off and on and off again. So we want to be able to have specialized support structure. If you try things and this and that and it's not working, perhaps you want to just consider what haven't you tried. And sometimes it can actually be very scary to try something we haven't tried. You probably have felt that way, and I sure did. I felt, I was like, oh, I probably, this is good for me, but I kind of don't want to do this, because a lot of times, the personal development guru Bob Proctor has this term of being comfortable in the discomfort. And it's kind of funny, but us people can become comfortable in the discomfort rather than to have to face more change, because then we don't know what's gonna happen if we face more change. But just know that you deserve to thrive the best that you possibly can, because life is short. life is precious and life is really short. So just like, I would encourage you, if you've gone through this and you said, I tried this and I tried that, then it is something that perhaps, just perhaps, you want to see if it is something else that might be hiding and lingering. And so, just to recap really quick, the 3 keys for thriving in live mudslides when we are in the middle of the fire is, the first is it's AFS. The first is awareness, and then the second is smart application, and to have specialized support structure. And actually with that, I'm going to give you a couple gifts with that. And the first one being that there's a lot of information in this, and then now that you're going through this, you might say, okay, you know what, I might fit in some of this and might not, or you might know somebody in your life who are going through challenge. And if so, then I would invite you to just check out, if you have somebody in your life going through challenge and you kind of recognize this person might actually be grieving. And sometimes we have an inclinations, we want to help, but it's a lot of times can backfire. So the gift that I have is for our community here to be able to go to my website and look up, and there will if you go to the sign that says get your gift here, then there is an information there on what to do and not to do if somebody having a tough times or grieving. And then the other part here is to actually, there is, I created a whole system called the 5 fingers, and it uses your hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to help you navigate the day to day as well. How do you use your thumb? How create a 2 thumbs to create a 2 thumbs up? How to use your pointer finger to press the internal pause button if things happening in your life. And then we all know what's the middle finger for and beyond. And then your ring finger and your little finger. This is also actually something that if you say, you know what, I am going through life and I really want to hear about this, then it is in my website as well. When you click on your gift here, you'll be able to retrieve that as well for you. And then and so those are the 2 things that I have in terms of, excuse me, in terms of being able to help us navigate the day-to-day things while on our way to become an even more brilliant diamond that we have, because we all want to become an even more brilliant diamond, but at the same time we want to be able to thrive on the way going there. And so we just want to this is another before and after pictures. We all deserve to be like this happy horse here and create the best life that we ever can, and feel the freedom and the free spirit, and waking up smiling and being in so much joy. And so that is with that. And I mentioned it before, but I'm the same thing with this, for this community. If you feel that there might be either you actually facing a loss, or there might be actually something in your life that you feel that been holding you back, kind of like the stuck situations that in either case, then feel free to connect with me. I'm for this community, I'm happy to provide complimentary laser coaching, a complimentary consultation. And just like that doctor there, sometimes all you need to do really is to kind of have the awareness of what's going on, and be able to change the result like that. Many people don't need an extensive coaching. Some do, but not many people don't. And so I'm happy to give a complimentary laser coaching with me. And if you do needing coaching instead of just laser coaching, then I'm happy to provide a community rate as well.
Oh, thank you for that. That's such a beautiful gift, because it is important to have support in your corner, especially if you are having all these symptoms, these different things that are manifesting. We
Yeah.
need to come back to that refining process, just like the diamond, where it's getting chipped away and it's going in the fire and coming out, and it's going through all the process of that refinement, so that we can sparkle. Like if you desire it and you're struggling, I am just like, my aha moment in this presentation today, Birgitte, is really just that weight loss piece and how it can be attached to something else. I know I've wrestled, like I said, the roller coaster train when it comes to lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it. And when I gain it, each time I gain it back, my body gets less and less willing to want to move. And I came to a realization in some of my own personal discovery, is like, I thought that if I gained weight, that my husband wouldn't want me as much sexually, because he's got a high sex drive. And but that's not the case. He still wants me just the same. And so it's not harming anybody else but myself. And so I'm like, well, now I need to just do this for me. And then I get on this good routine, and then something in life will happen. And that is always the first area to go, always for me. And it's driving me mad.
Yeah. And the sneaky part is, it might not even be something that, like, I think a lot of us, like you and I, in personal development and people in counseling, they're like, okay, so let's look at your childhood, what happened in your childhood, and and things like that. And the sneaky part is, like, with Mary, it didn't even really happen to her.
Right.
It didn't, like, it wasn't like like she was has a physical an abuse or something like that, right?
She witnessed somebody else going through something.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's powerful stuff, because I've witnessed lots of catastrophic things that my mom had gone through, not realizing the impact that it has on the way I trust, the way I put up boundaries and guards to protect and protect myself. And these are all like self protection mechanisms that we do unconsciously, right? And try to push people away before they hurt us, and all those things, right? So it's good to be able to have these understandings, and to just do some digging. And we can't always dig in the mines looking for our diamonds by ourselves. Sometimes we need a team to come along and support us.
Yeah, and the other part of it is, I personally don't recommend digging, because sometimes, a little bit, like, nothing's against counseling, right? As counseling definitely has a wonderful place. I used to be in counseling for a long time. And sometimes when you dig, kind of like, the more you dig, the more you find things, and then the more you kind of get in the mess of the whole tumble. You know what I mean? Like, you deeper in the hole, the more you dig, you got bigger hole, and you kind of deeper in the hole and deeper in the hole. And then now you have an insight of what might happen, but it doesn't get you anywhere. The beauty is with the system is actually, it doesn't dig. It's kind of somehow the way I help people, it helps things just come up. And so if it doesn't come up for you, then I always say to every client, don't sit there and say, would it possibly this and possibly, don't do that. If it's meant to come out, as we work through this, because it's a systematic system, as we work through this, it will actually come up. No digging needed.
Oh, thank you for that clarity. Thank you for the
so,
clarity. I was just thinking diamond mines, like.
No, you already gone through that part, right? And so you are up here now, and yes, life is cutting us and doing all these things, but we have enough things going on, so we don't want to have to be digging anymore. We just want to be able to kind of ease through the
Thrive.
cut. Yeah, through
Yeah.
thrive, ease through the cut and the pressure and everything. And we don't in this the way I help is we're not sitting and digging. That's why it's always a very to get the result you want. A lot of times, some people that has a bigger goal, a longer change, and things, it might take longer time. But a lot of time, it's within a matter of 9-12 weeks, at the most 6 months. We're
Wow.
not talking about prolonged counseling and years of doing things. I mean, we all got to live our life. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
And I love how, you know, your modality of dance and just being able to bring that, that joy of dance and being able to stir the pot per se through moving our bodies
Yeah.
in a free-flowing way to help us discover things about ourselves. I think when you come back and take us through that, I am so excited for that day to happen for sure. I'm hoping my shoulder's better so I can move my arm, but right now I can hardly lift it because my shoulder's like freaking out on me for some reason. But yeah, I very much appreciated you bringing this presentation to us today and just helping us understand some of the depth of grief. And it's not just about losing a loved one or a pet or a job. There's so many other things like news or just a shift in your workplace, the supervisor, or there's just so many levels. Like you said, there's 40 different things that can trigger grief, and it comes and manifests in so many different ways. So thank you so much for just bringing some enlightenment into this topic and helping us understand that we still have the power to allow ourselves to thrive and to shine brightly, and not be just tugged down and pulled down into the pits and despair of the grief that we're embracing and falling into that fight or flight mode where we just want to run away from everything, that we can actually face these issues and find healing and deliverance so that we can shine brightly and live our best life. So thank you.
Oh, it's an honor and a delight. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your generous gifts. So definitely go to Birgitte's website. I'll put the link here at the bottom of this video, and go to the free gift tab that she has on her site to access her amazing resource and take advantage of her free complimentary session and some laser coaching just to see if she's the right fit for you and see what kind of comes out of that laser coaching. If there's no obligation, and it's really great to kind of like dig in and get some different insights from people that have walked a mile in your shoes. Like Birgitte's been through it. And if you haven't heard her story yet, you need to go back to Your Story Matters conversation and check out Birgitte's talk there, because she shares all the things that came rolling in on her like thunder and lightning within a short 2-year span. That just was one thing after another after another. The poor woman is like, when am I ever going to come up for air? And she still was able to find joy and peace and dance it out and find the healing that she was so rightfully deserving. So thank you once again for coming and sharing your goodness with us today, Birgitte. I appreciate you.
Thank you. It's an honor.